On what is considered a historic milestone for General Santos City, the very challenging, tedious, work-oriented, and budgetless undertaking of codifying a total of 606 local legislations or ordinances enacted by 16 Sanggunians, spanning a period of over half a century, or 62 years, from 1948 to 2012, came into its ideal conclusion. In June 26, 2013, the 16th Sangguniang Panglungsod, led by Vice Mayor Sherlene Bañez Nograles, finally approved on joint sponsorship Ordinance Number 11 Series of 2013, otherwise known as the Code of Ordinances of General Santos City, making the city a pioneer in the region and one of the handful of cities in the country to have done this essential and landmark legislative accomplishment. Why the need to codify? The result of the inventory of ordinances conducted by the codification team during the onset of the codification project showed that from 1948 to 2012, a total of 2,456 ordinances were enacted, the bulk of which are appropriation. The huge volume of local laws enacted by the City Council for 6 decades necessitate a thorough organization and evaluation with the primary goal of better informing local lawmakers and city residents of existing local laws and policies, as well as repeal, amend, or put in place essential updates on ordinances that are obsolete, duplicative, conflicting, and are no longer responsive to present conditions. The codification project seeks to: number 1, provide a single, comprehensive, organized, and updated source of ordinances out of the voluminous documents and records of Sangguniang Panglungsod. Number 2, provide widest possible dissemination, avoid confusion, and ensure accurate interpretation of ordinances. Number 3, modify or repeal obsolete local laws, prevent duplicity and conflict of existing ordinances. Number 4, afford inexpensive, easy, and convenient access to ordinances, thus eliminating hours of frustrating research. Number 5, develop a system for easy search and retrieval, make an inventory and good housekeeping of ordinance files. Number 6, improve system of archiving. Number 7, create a platform of e-governance and promote and practice paperless transactions. Codification timeline, the first phase. The successful journey towards the codification of ordinances of General Santos City was realized despite many challenges, primarily the lack of funds and personnel. The whole process underwent several phases, the first of which began on November 15, 2010, with the formation of the Technical Working Group with Mr. George Tapel of the SP Legislative Division and Ms. Maria Luvelia Morales Gindap of the SP Journal Division, entrusted to begin the undertaking of such a colossal task. They were to conduct an inventory, compile, list, classify, encode, and store electronic copies of all the ordinances in the archive of the Records Division. While most LGUs outsource to private consultants the crafting of their own code of ordinances, while others were fortunate enough as having been granted technical and financial support by foreign funding agencies. The 16th Sangguniang literally squeezed its own existing meager resources to meet its target. Only 2 job order personnel were hired to do the encoding of the hard copies of the ordinances for the period of 6 months. The codification project team used and utilized existing inventory of office supplies and equipment and purchased their own laptop, as no additional supply and capital outlay were ever procured. To complement the 2 encoders facing enormous bulk of work, The project team also resorted to a number of innovative measures, like involving applicants for plantilla job items and the SP to be involved in the project, making their efforts part of the screening process, and thus help in providing additional insights in the evaluation of their knowledge, skills, and competence. To further augment the need for manpower, the project likewise involved about 22 on-the-job training student volunteers coming from ACA Sargent Foundation Incorporated, Holy Trinity College, and Ramon Magsaysay Memorial Colleges to help the project team, thus giving the OJT student volunteers a more hands-on and helpful training. On May 2011, 37 to be discussed categories were identified and finalized. The 606 ordinances were then categorized to 6 titles. Ordinances involving appropriations, public officer or office, and taxation or revenues were excluded. On June 14, 2011, the proposed codification ordinance was presented and entered on first reading during the 47th regular session of the 16th Sangguniang Panglungsod, ending the first phase of the project. The second phase. The referral of the proposed Code of Ordinances to the Sangguniang Inbank Committee marked the beginning of the second phase of the codification project. There were a total of 84 Inbank Committee hearings conducted beginning June 30, 2011 to December 19, 2012, with brief interruption of recess in between hearings. A total of 2,233 participants and resource persons had joined the entire codification process. On February 8, 2013, the project team has finished and submitted the overarching goal of the project. The final version of the Code of Ordinances, after undergoing lengthy deliberation, amendments, revisions, and harmonization of its provisions. Out of these, 185 were amended, 116 were adopted, and 305 ordinances were repealed. The report is supplemented by executive summaries, journals, and minutes of proceedings of every sessions held, ocular inspection report, and benchmarking activities conducted in Tagum City for Economic Enterprise, Santo Tomas Davao del Norte for Ecological Solid Waste Management, and Barangay Bawing for consultation and ocular inspection of the actual location of the protected marine sanctuary. It was discovered that Purok Gumamel of Barangay Bawing was declared as a fish sanctuary in the local fisheries code, and this error was rectified. Before the minutes of the Inbank hearing were submitted for approval and adoption of the City Council, the codification team conducted 1 month of exhaustive and comprehensive review to ensure accuracy of data, working literally day and night and until the wee hours of the morning to finish the job on schedule. These data were likewise published or featured at www.spgensantos.ph, the official website of the Sangguniang Panglungsod of General Santos. The SP newsletter was likewise created in order to provide updates and information to the barangays and other areas where internet is not accessible as to the status of the codification process. The codification project, however, faced a major obstacle when, on March 19, 2013, due to several constraints, the approval and adoption of the minutes of all Inbank hearings on the codification of ordinances was deferred. Such development, and with local elections fast approaching, the codification project team, acting on apprehensions that the Code of Ordinances of General Santos City will not reach the third and final reading, submitted an end-of-project report on March 26, 2013, which provides an overview of the project, details and status of all deliverables, project cost, changes to original plans, residual, outstanding, and follow-on activities, and methodology and lessons learned. Third phase. The results of the local elections in May 14, 2013 brought about a favorable second wind for the realization of the passage of the Code of Ordinances of General Santos City. During the 142nd and valedictory regular session of the 16th Sangguniang Panglungsod, the proposed ordinance enacting the Code of Ordinances was reconsidered for second reading. After the amendments were approved on second reading, the proposed ordinance enacting the Code of Ordinances of the City of General Santos was entered and approved on third and final reading by the 16th Sangguniang Panglungsod of General Santos City unanimously. Ordinance number 11 series of 2013, otherwise known as Ordinance enacting the Code of Ordinances of the City of General Santos. Fourth phase. With the term of the 16th SP already ended, the 17th Sangguniang Panglungsod, with the full support of the Honorable City Mayor Ronel Rivera, continued the job of approving the budget for publication and printing of the Code of Ordinances of the City of General Santos. With the requisite 15-day publication already satisfied, the Code of Ordinances of the City of General Santos, which amended or repealed all ordinances from 1948 to 2012, is now deemed effective and at present is the sole reference for future amendments or repeals of local legislations covering the above-mentioned period. The Code of Ordinances of the City of General Santos is now ready to be printed, and copies of which will be eventually distributed to all concerned when finished. In-bank hearings result in policy recommendations. It was during the exhaustive in-bank hearings that policy gaps were identified and recommendations were made on each of the identified categories of the codification project. The story of the enactment of the Code of Ordinances of General Santos City is a success story that epitomizes hard work, dedication, never say die attitude, and above all else, unity of purpose and efforts among all parties concerned in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds. This is a product of no single person's efforts, but a collective body of works of individuals and groups who were focused on achieving the overarching goal of codifying the ordinances of this city, purposely and eventually for the benefit and general welfare of all the constituents. To God be the glory.